Data struck down. Congressman Fred Upton, chairman of the Energy and Commerce Committee, was in court today and joins me now. Chairman, thanks for being with us today. We really appreciate it.
I'm delighted to be with you.
Well,
today.
I want to talk to you about this hearing today because you were actually there, and this is the first time you've ever been in a Supreme Court hearing. What was it like?
And I'm not a lawyer. And it was really fascinating to watch. And frankly, I think it begs the question, why isn't this on TV so that all Americans can watch it? Great questions, great debate, a lot of laughter actually. Scalia was certainly on top of his game, there's no question about that. But it really, I mean, the focus is, if you take out the individual mandate, that is the heart of this. How can the rest of it stand?
The severability issue.
The severability issue, because you'll, as one justice said, you'll bankrupt the insurance industry if you don't allow this, hundreds of billions of dollars to follow suit.
Well, it is the funding mechanism for a lot of this bill, is that insurers who are required to give insurance to anybody then have everybody subscribing to their services. Wanted to ask you this, though. You were in this hearing. You talked about how Alito was at the top of his game. There's been a lot of criticism of the counsel for the president for really not being at the top of his game. In fact, some people have called it a train wreck. What did you make of it? Was the president well represented today?
Well, he tried his best, I'll say that. But, the arguments, at least for me, I opposed Obamacare every step of the way. A lot of us wanted amendments on the House floor. We were stiff, couldn't do that. But the argument really is, if you take out this individual mandate, how does the rest of it stand? And that was the argument during the couple hours that I was there this morning.
Health and Human Services out with numbers today, astonishing about the impacts of Obamacare on state economies, on the nation's economy. They said that the cost will be $619 billion additional for states over the next 10 years. Is that sustainable for states?
Well, my state, Michigan, we have a balanced budget amendment. They've got to balance their figures every single year. There is no money. They're not going to raise taxes. We've gone through a terrible recession back in Michigan, and we're broke. It's all we can do to pay our bills now. To think that we're going to expand Medicaid by 137%, there just isn't the money in the coffers to be able to do that. And remember, Medicaid, and that was the argument this afternoon, Medicaid is traditionally the partnership between the federal government and the states.
Right.
The states manage it, the feds help pay for it, but the state has the first say in terms of what goes on.
And also the burden.
And the burden. And that was the whole argument. You remember the Cornhusker kickback.
Right.
That was the provision that allegedly got a certain Nebraska vote, that they wouldn't the state of Nebraska wouldn't have to pay what other states would pay for their own state share, and by doing that, they'd get his vote. And that was actually referenced
and
today.
It was brought up today, which is interesting. Are people voting for this for the right reasons?
Yeah.
Or are they doing it for political reasons? I mentioned that Health and Human Services study. They also said that Obamacare means that 1 in 5 Americans will eventually be on Medicaid, which to me is a tragedy. How do you read it?
Yeah, the same way. The other interesting issue here was that they made light of the 2,700-page document that was the health care bill. The law
that nobody read.
Including the justices, and then there was a debate between the justices as to whose law clerks were better at reading through and trying to figure out what Congress's intent was on the whole issue.
Did you read the bill?
I did not read the bill.
You did not read the bill. You voted against it.
I said I wouldn't vote for it unless I read it. So I did. I have a copy of it, and I read parts of it, but it was an easy vote for me to vote no.
It's increasingly looking like this law could get stopped. The individual mandate could get declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court, and in fact, the rest of Obamacare could be thrown out. What would that mean as a practical matter for the industry and for the states that have to manage so many of these programs?
This is why a number of us wanted to see an expedited Supreme Court review, because we knew that things were going to be in limbo until they ruled. And we'll have to do one of two things. We'll either have to go back and figure out all the different flaws, and there are plenty of them there, and we've taken care of some of them, but there's a whole slew of them. Or do we start over? I'm one that wants to start over. We need to address health care reform. It needs to be bipartisan. We need to include lots of different parts of this. I think that we could do it, but until the court rules, there's really nothing we can do. And so we've wasted a lot of time waiting for this ruling, which will come out before the 4th of July.
What's the practical impact on politics in this nation? What's the practical impact on the president and his administration if this were to go down?
Well, the practical impact is, you know, because the decision won't be until sometime this summer, we're going to be, because it's not going to be till, we don't have a lot of time left to yet do it this year. So that we'll have to have hearings, we'll have to have the debate, we'll have to gin up, we'll need to look at a whole number of different things. But at least we're going to get to a conclusion come the 4th of July or so.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. In the meantime, Chairman, you've got to come back and